So, I've seen very few Studio Ghibli movies. Ghibli? Ghibli? One of the two. Um, and I decided to watch The Wind Rises because I wanted to, I don't know, not make it a goal, but I wanted to watch all of the filmography from them. And this one stuck out to me, so I decided to watch it. One of the first quotes in the movie you see is, "The wind is rising, so we must try to live." And we follow this character, Jiro Horikoshi. He is this kind, selfless dreamer who, I would say, he ruthlessly dreams. He deeply wants to become someone who works in aviation. He wants to design planes. That is his dream. He dreams so vividly that it becomes a reality. One of the things I like about him is that he has a genuine investment in his creation. The job he's working as a aeronautical engineer is something he's doing because he genuinely loves it. Unlike some people in who are in the movie, he's not just working because the job may lead to something that's good or the pay is high. You can see the genuine wonder in his eye when he's working. And it's sort of the same thing where he can't see. Like, he has bad vision. Not terrible, but it makes it so that he can't become a pilot. But for that same reason, he's able to see in so much depth when it comes to planes, and he's able to work on them, and he's known as a genius in designing planes. The story takes place during the early 1900s. I think between the First World War and the Second World War. During this, we have obviously the Japanese building planes. There's a massive earthquake that hits Japan and sort of causes devastation. And this is a place where we sort of see his kindness, but also a moment of fateful encounters. And I think this is something that sort of sits on the backwater of the movie. And they use wind to make encounters. The beginning, this is where his hat flies off his head and a young girl catches it. This is a fateful encounter because this young girl will be the woman who later becomes his wife. And another thing that I would say is a fateful encounter is when he meets her later, um, by the same means, because her umbrella gets blown away. The wind is moving, and so we must try to live. It was a bit confusing, I can't lie. It hit me at first, but I felt it throughout the movie. His ability and everyone else's ability to endure and continue dreaming. Sort of this idea that you can move with the wind. As you are navigating life, you must move with the wind. Or, and another means, embrace it and move with the uncertainty that surrounds you. Death exists and it will follow you. But despite that, you must figure out how to live even with death coming. And I like this one quote or idea from the movie that is sort of explored with Caproni. And we see this with the graveyard of planes and all the failures of the planes falling. Some dreams are beautifully cursed, like the planes that Jiro was working on. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue it. He knew that eventually his planes would be used as weapons of war, but he wasn't creating them to be weapons of war. He truly loved making planes. Them being used as a tool for war doesn't mean that he shouldn't create it, that he shouldn't pursue it. What other people do with his creation doesn't define his intent with it. He doesn't let the hindrances stop him from being around planes, from making planes. Even if he can't fly them, he will still make them. Another thing that was like said in the movie is planes are not tools for war or money. They're beautiful dreams. And engineers build those dreams into reality. These are not just items gonna that are meant to harm people. They are creations built from the heart of engineers who truly care about what they're making, including Jiro. He is a sort of simple beauty seen within things. He doesn't just build plane, he dreams them. They're deeply a part of him. Jiro would rather a world with planes than without. Unlike some other people, Jiro doesn't drown in this idea of German superiority when it comes to their technology. He truly believes that there's a way to catch up to them, to build beautiful planes in which they have never seen. When he's talking to his friend in the scene at night, he says, I wonder if there's a different way to run. When they're talking about the tortoise and the hare, sure, the hare is far behind the tortoise. In this case, they say there's a 20 years gap. The Germans have been running and innovating, but this doesn't mean that the Japanese can't close that gap. They just have to find new ways to do it. And this idea appears a lot, that the Japanese are so far behind. They continuously say the Japanese are backwards, the Japanese are poor. And this is one of the core themes, because the Japanese are suffering from war, but you also see that the Japanese are in a transition period. You see old culture and the new culture mixing. So it seems backwards because they are in a period of growth and change where, yeah, they're paying these engineers a lot to try and establish something for their country who is seemingly suffering and poor, not only from earthquakes, um, but other things. Their banks are closing down. Honestly, when those bay doors opened on that large metal German plane and it flew into the air, I got chills. It felt so new and different, from what we were seeing earlier with the Japanese planes. And then later, he brings this white, almost paper airplane, like plane that he's envisioning this whole time, to life. We truly get to see it. Uh, so there's this character Caproni, who I assume is another engineer, or at least in this, I don't know if he's a real life engineer or simply somebody they created for this movie. But Jiro constantly imagines or daydreams about chats with Caproni. One of the things that Caproni talks to him about is this sort of 10-year vision. How every engineer's career goes, it comes and goes between this 10 years. After 5 years, he becomes a chief engineer and is able to work with the Navy on a project. This doesn't go exactly as planned. You know, there's many failures. They're complaining about the Japanese engines, and slowly you see him start building pieces of what would be his plane. Naoki, his wife, is sick with tuberculosis. During this time, he is trying to build the plane of his dreams while also staying with Naoki or speaking to her. She's originally in the like a sanatorium, but she comes down and he wants her to stay with him, and he wants to stay with her. Otherwise, he would leave. So they are spending as much time as they can together. He is working on his plane, and finally, he designs the plane of his dreams. And they take the prototype with the ox, which they deem backwards, out to the fields, and it flies perfectly. It flies unimaginably well. And when he finally does it, something feels off. Naoki had left back to the sanatorium, and we enter a graveyard of all these planes, which I imagine failed to war or failed designs, etc. And we come upon the hill where we started with his initial dream, where he first met Caproni. We see him say goodbye to Naoki. We see his jets fly above. He's saying goodbye, but he's still here living. I like this movie. Um, I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I would say it's one of my favorite Studio Ghibli movies so far. If I'm saying that wrong, correct me. I felt like the ending was lacking, but also it felt correct for this movie because it was like a breeze. It's not something you can see, it's something you feel and then is gone. And I think this movie shows the ability to endure along with the ability to dream. There are things that you can't always control in life, but you can embrace them and move through it. And then also this idea of serendipity and these fateful encounters that come from devastation. There are two sides of the coin. There are bad things and there are good things, and sometimes they go hand in hand. The wind is rising, so we must try and find a way to live. Obviously, I love the hand drawn vibe that they give to each of their movies. I love the sound effects or like the man-made sound effects where it doesn't sound exactly right, but it adds character to the movie. I really like this movie with its ability to show dreams and how vividly dreams become when you're completely in love with what you're doing. Because Jiro was completely in love with what he was doing, and he brought that to the world around him. He was kind and selfless. I love this movie. I recommend to go watch it. I don't really have much else to say. Peace out and bye.